It's in the kitchen every third Thursday. Round the world we go, where it all stops. Hey, yeah, nobody knows. Hot topics on the mind, show to keep you on your toes. Don't check my live, man, it's time to pass the stove. Round the world we go. Hey, it's time to pass the scope. Round the world we go. Hey, hey, come on. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Pass the Scope EDU After the Bell Series 4. I'm gonna let Tatul introduce it. He's usually on the panel, but I gotta bring you in, man, to bring it all in. Tatul, what we got going on today, man?
So today we have a very, very special group of folks. These are my peoples. We are part of Equity in Action CA, and we had a fantastic conference about equity, about the hashtag was making equity a verb, but like, what is the action that we're going to take? What action are we going to take? Lots of talk about equity, lots of book studies, lots of different things folks are doing. Now, what is the action? That's what we doing. That's who we talking to today.
Oh, so this conference, you know, as folks know, as people are joining us, we thank you for joining us now. If you're going to be joining us later on the repeat, you know, that's perfectly fine. We thank you, first of all, for catching us on Twitter, Periscope, YouTube. Where else are we? Maybe Facebook. I don't know where we are today. It's so much going on. But wherever you're catching us, we appreciate you tuning in, because we want to make sure that we give you what you're looking for as the people in the audience. We're also trying to ignite a passion of learning one scope at a time, and I think we're able to do that with this conference that took place over the weekend. All right, cool beans. So let's go ahead and introduce our folks that we've got with us, always centering us in the middle. Moni in the middle, Valerie Lewis. Say what's up, Valerie.
Hey guys, I'm Valerie Lewis here in the Metro Atlanta area, and so glad to have this conversation tonight.
Excellent. And we have some dear special guests with us. I'll let you guys introduce yourselves, starting with you, Sue.
All right. So my name is Sue Thoughts, and I am in Los Angeles with the Equity in Action CA crew. Leticia, who are you?
Hey, everyone. I'm Leticia Citizen. I'm an I-4 coach at Hawthorne School in Beverly Hills Unified School District and a blessed member of Equity in Action California in Southern California.
Beverly Hills, is she bougie out there? Beverly Hills.
Wait.
90210. Yep. 90210.
Clear it up. Go ahead.
90210. Representing.
I don't live in Beverly Hills, but I do connect with the families and the students, our students in Beverly Hills. So yes, but I commute. Not now.
That means she gets really bomb teacher appreciation gifts.
That I do. They do. I will say that our community does love on teachers, and that feels good to be in a space that happens. And we're loved on in different ways. So yes, I agree with you on that, Val.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna say nothing, about that, but we'll leave it be. All right, so we're talking about Equity in Action CA California, right? So tell us a little bit about what it is that you guys are doing. How did you form? Give us a little background on Equity in Action California.
Who wants to tell? Go ahead. Start us off with the story.
Let me start it off. And
sure.
Then take up. Okay. So we started just having conversations, asking questions. Basically, it was 2018. I'm trying to keep up with the years. I think it was around 2018. I remember one conversation we had was Tatul and I dragged him with me to IAQ. They were hosting a conference, and so we were both presenting, and I'm like, hey, you're gonna come with me. So we carpooled, and going into this space, well, Tatul and I have known each other for a while. I don't think we've ever been just the two of us together in a space that we noticed that we were both doing the same thing, in terms of like checking to see who's here, who's in that space, more particularly to see what Black folks were there, right? What people of color. So we kind of saw each other doing that. And we're like, "Were you?" And he was like, "Were you?" And then we just started having that conversation. And then lunch came around, And I already knew Sue, and so I introduced Sue to the tool, and then they got to talking, which was awesome. At the time, we didn't know that Nairi was actually there, and we didn't spot her until like later, but we didn't necessarily have a conversation with her just yet. But just in that time, we were having that, we had that conversation about like, why are we not here? You know, why aren't Black folks, more particular teachers, why aren't we here? Why aren't we presenting? Why aren't we sharing our voices? And then later that afternoon, they had a happy hour, right, to Tool. So that way we were there, Tool and I, and at the time, Sano, who's amazing just in all that she does, but she came up to us and she said, you know, how's everything? What are your thoughts? And this is my first time meeting Sano Tool as well. And I was like, well, since you're asking, like, where's the diversity? So we just started to have those conversations. I'm like, you open the door, we're going to step in. So, so we started having that conversation with her. And then fast forward, like, a bunch of us were at Spring Q that following sometime in there. And then more of us were having those conversations. So we were having these conversations in isolation. And then we decided to like come together, talk about it. And it was really more about like, we already know what the problem is. Like we know what the issue is. Let's move to action. Like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do about this? That's where we were. I mean, Sue was fired up and she was like she said, she's a note taker. So she was like, what are we doing? Okay, this is what we said. Like, had an informal meeting with just like minds who were thinking the same things. We just didn't know where to start, where to go. And then moved to another conference. And it was really operating in California in that Q, which is our like umbrella, I don't know what tech person, like under ISTE, right? ISTE's for everybody. And then in Texas, I know it's TCA. So Q is for us. And under that, there's like 27, I think, Q affiliates. So all of us were like going to these different affiliates and we work with them in some capacity. And it's been amazing that we've been funneling our movement and what we're trying to do through these partnerships with them. But it just, there's six of us actually. So Tatul, Sue, myself, Tori, and Nairi, and Jen, like, they came together and we're like, we're gonna ask these questions and we're gonna collect data and what are we gonna do with this and pass it on to Sue.
It was funny because I was hearing the same conversation between different people, and all it took was just kind of bringing everybody together, right? And trying to figure out how it was that we could have these conversations, but then what are we going to do about it? How do we take action? What do we need to do to just kind of stimulate the conversation further, not just among the folks of color who I knew, but also, you know, into leadership. How do we begin to partner with folks and make something happen as a result of what our observations were?
Yeah, I think many of us have gotten connected because we've had that same feeling, those same conversations, all over the country. It has trickled over into formulating different collaborations on Voxer, in Twitter groups, in whatever. What I love about what you're doing is you actually are taking those notes and you're putting feet to it. So you're building something from that to change those conversations. Am I right about that particular aspect of it?
Oh, definitely. Like the part that I love, and I know we use this word often, organic, it just happens so organically. Like, it was just, there's no formula. Like when we're forced to like share the story, that's when we get to say, so, oh my gosh, yeah. But we can't say like step one was this and step two was this. It truly was like, our whole thing was like, let's go ahead and put up a mirror to show who's here and who's missing. Those were our questions. Who's here, who's present in this space, and who's missing in this space? And then taking that and asking people to be vulnerable, to share their identities, how they identify themselves, and doing it anonymously. So we just had posts. I mean, like I said, when I sit here and I think about it, and then moving from collecting data, sharing that with conference leaders to say like, look, and we know like we make sure that we keep account of how many people actually signed up versus actually how many people like filled out a Post-it note. Doing that in person, we took that into account, but we were able to say like, hey, and I always try to point out, we didn't go in pointing fingers saying you did this. It was like, here's some data. Here's what it's showing us. Here's some questions that come with this. What can we do together, like to hopefully change this, right? We want to bring people into these spaces to share their voices, to share what they're doing with their students, not only attend, but also present in. And then, man, what came out of that, even like moving into a virtual space, like we were like, how do we do this? And we jumped on it. And then like, we knew what we are, like we had some main missions. Nairi, so cute. Yes, Nairi, this is live.
Nairi. It is live, sister.
And just really like what has come out of it since has been crazy. I'm gonna turn this over to like Sue or Tatul. Come on, you jump in.
Yeah. So the story that you told about Sonal, and you know, people always say like, what can I do? Like I'm insignificant, but like during that conference, we met with Sue, but we went to different sessions together. Leticia had a session, I had a session, and we met up. We were talking about all this stuff that was happening, right? And so we're like, whoa, if we get a chance, we're gonna say something. And he was like, yeah, we gotta say something. Like, okay, we're gonna say. And then we were sitting and we're just kind of eating and talking. Sonal comes over and she was like, what do you guys think? Do you guys have any feedback? And we're like, actually, we do. And we asked her the question, and that's how it started. You know, a lot of people think you have to do like these grandiose tasks, and it starts with the question, like, well, have you thought about diversity in the space, about who you're inviting to the space, or have you thought about this issue or that issue? And when we started going to different conferences, that's how it started. Like, hey, we just want to take data and get a sense for who's showing up and who's not in the space, right? Just the question alone sparked a lot of conversation and sparked us to get moving on all of these things. And it just kind of happened organically, and it's just kind of taken a life on its own. We just keep like morphing with it. It's fantastic.
And I'm glad that you mentioned the part, Tatul, about sometimes people think they're insignificant. And so that's a change in mindset, number one. Your experiences are real. They've happened. And therefore, because of the experiences that you've had, that's valid in itself and not insignificant. And so when you're talking about sharing those thoughts, those ideas, you will attract like-minded people. And sometimes we recognize in the attraction and that synergy that comes together, as you guys have mentioned, 6 of you coming together, and it happened organically, as Leticia said. Here's the bottom line. All 6 of you have different experiences, different walks of life. You happen to share that common wavelength, but you all have different strengths that you brought to the table. Because I'm sure, like Sue's like, I'm the thought lead, or I'm the note taker, so she's.
Oh, we lost Valerie?
Yeah, she was deep in that note taking.
So deep in it, she's buffering.
But Val's absolutely right. Like when it comes to the different strengths that we bring and the different passions that we bring, for sure, absolutely. Nairi, who is right here with us, her talents for graphic design, for visual information, for being a communicator, for being a documenter, for videoing everything, like that is essential in communicating what it is that we're trying to do. And Leticia over here, we would be nowhere without Leticia, who is the workhorse, who is putting everything together, who takes care of everything, right? Like, she's going to do it. She's going to be on top of every single thing. Absolutely. We are all about, what it is that some of us have to drop out. Like Nairi has to step back a little bit right now, right? And we're all taking our turn, stepping up and stepping back, but we all have the same passion and the same drive, when it comes to seeing this work happen.
I need my James Brown music cue when you talk about Leticia being the hardest working person, because she be working it. I know you smiling. Yeah, Valerie's back. Oh, look who we got here now. I'm gonna put you right there on the screen.
Oh,
Are you frozen though?
Nice.
you're on the
He's
spot.
He's
frozen.
on mute.
That's okay because that was a good looking
Tori, you
frozen
there?
picture.
It
Yeah,
was.
it
It looked like
was.
a profile
It's like
pic.
Tori, can you hear us?
There's a
Oh,
delay. Oh,
my mic wasn't
Yeah.
working for a minute. My bad. I kept trying to hit it. How's everybody doing?
we are
Doing
good.
well, man. How are you
Happy to
doing?
see you.
Good to see you too. The audio is coming in choppy on my end, so I don't know if that's for everybody or just me because I'm in the car. But
I think consensus is going to say it's you. It's all good. It's all good, brother, for sure, for sure. All right, well, let's jump into your conference. You said the theme was making equity a verb. That's a pretty powerful statement there. Give us some background on how that came to be.
Well, I will say that I think the intention of this was we've had a lot of conversations about, like Tatul said, reading books and having ideas and learning, right? Raising awareness and learning. And now the question was, there's a lot of people who are very aware in our space who are coming into this workshop and they just want to be able to start making headway, right? Start pushing forward. And so what our intention was with this was to be able to provide a space where we had intensive workshops, 90-minute workshops, where people, we had an elementary strand, a secondary strand, and a leadership strand. And the idea was that you walk away with that with a plan, right? Some sort of like next steps. What is it that I'm going to do to start chipping away at the institution that I'm part of? So that, we called it Next Steps. And Nairi here, obviously she showed us how. I got some powerful, some wonderful cars out here. Nairi showed us how to take our lesson plans and transform them, right? So every classroom teacher who goes into her session can turn, a new lens on what it is that they're doing and make progress moving forward, right? So that's just one example of one thing that we were trying to do is just give everybody actionable steps.
I can definitely ditto that. I jumped into Alicia's session, and let me tell you that I was mind blown. I was like, oh my God. I didn't have enough notebook pages to write stuff down. I was like, send that to me, send that to me, and send that to me. But you're right. It was actionable, but it was stuff that you could implement right away. I mean, just a simple thing like taking your rubric and putting the steps and the criteria on the rubric, adding a box in front of it, you automatically turn that into a self checklist for students that need accessibility or have attention deficits. I mean, if your mind works that way, you could see the possibilities. And I mean, it was truly powerful that you could walk away from it and it didn't feel rushed. It wasn't like a session like, oh man, you felt like I got what it was worth. I could walk away from this and I could go share it with my team or send them a playback video or whatever the case may be. And so I agree with that. It was next step. It was measurable. There were takeaways instantly.
Yeah, and Nari said it. The conversation in the chat was, I couldn't even keep up anymore. I was moderating. I was helping to moderate for Alicia, and I couldn't keep up anymore because of all the things that were flying. And you try to catch this, and the next thing comes up. And we had some folks. We had some people in the librarian conference who were sharing all these the CSLA that we covered the week before. Were sharing all kind of different resources that they were throwing in the chat, creating rubrics and this, that, and the other. And it was fantastic to be able to get this information from the facilitator, but then also the folks who were participants were throwing in their 2 cents too. So it was like just this hodgepodge of just information and things like Valerie said, you can take away, take with you, and feel that you're making a difference. And that was the big thing. Like we want to be able to make some folks to take action, move forward. And what is it? What's going to be the next step? What step you're going to take on Monday instead of just being paralyzed by what I think I want to do, what I can't do. But here's one thing you might be able to do on Monday to make a difference and to try to dismantle the system.
Let's see, Tori, you with us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Now I know there was a part, and then I think we'll get to Tori in just a minute, where there was a panelist discussion as well. And so the thoughts around starting and kicking off the conference with this panelist discussion, and then day 2 going into the workshops, help us understand the power of having these panelists having a discussion prior to getting into the learning sessions. And Tori, you can answer that if you like.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll
I can
answer it.
barely hear.
I'll
I'm
help answer
sorry.
it. Yeah, I'll help him answer it because we actually had a conversation about this when we were debriefing, and Tori was saying how he really appreciated the open-endedness of the conversation and to be able to bring everyone's authentic inspiration and thought into the conference just so we can think about and help set the stage. And Sue says this a lot, like, we're setting the table with this panel discussion. So once you sit down, the food comes, you have your appetizer and you have your main meal, right? So we have it set up and really set the stage for what we're going to be learning. And I think what's really important when we have these panels is that we really get the true experiences of people of color and get their perspective, right? Because so many times we hear from so many next buffet with so many times we don't hear the voices that we need to hear from, right? We have people who we listen to, we have quote unquote experts who who may know nothing about what the experience of people of color are, but we wanted to uplift that voice, the voice of folks from marginalized communities. And I think having Jason and Ella and Abby in that space was really important for us to hear kind of their take on some of the subject and kind of some of the things that they're doing in their space. It's really important for us to do.
I just want to point out to you that Ella, Jason, and Abby, they were also our panelists in our first Equitarium, where we had, like, it was about like conversations, just creating a space where people could just come and share. And we had Sheldon and Dr. Nicole Howard, like, they even like did some keynoting too, and like having conversations. But having those like having Abby, Ella, and Jason come the first time, again, like they just had so much to share that even planning for Equitarium 2, we had this back and forth where we were like, let's just like it was one of those things, was like, bring them back. But do we like open up that space for like others to share? Like, we had that back and forth, but we knew that they had so much more to bring to the table and that they had so much more to offer, that when we really, again, we connected the questions to what everyone was going to end up doing in those workshop sessions, that we were like, yeah, let's bring them back. Like, they're, especially because we knew that they were going to be comfortable already with each other. They were comfortable with us. They were comfortable with that space. That it was, I think it was like one of the best decisions that we made in terms of like bringing them back again. I mean, Tori said this when we debriefed on Saturday, like, we could, and I think many others in the chat said, we could have kept going. That it was 40 minutes in there. Like, we could have gone maybe another 30, maybe another 40, just having them share and give. The part of that too was that they didn't just share, they shared practical things that you could do the next day in your classroom. And you could tell, like, that's what they were doing, whether it was working with teachers or working with their own students, they were actually doing these things. Yes, I did. So, Nairi, you say that in a way. Let's just give some context here, okay? So, Nairi's session, it was 90 minutes. And then I said, hey, we have like a cushion 10 minutes. And it was, the conversation in her session was on fire and people were sharing and talking. But I was like, yo, not to be a timekeeper, but we had to go. Nairi, stop saying that. I kicked you out.
So you. Oh, it looks like Ella is with us. Hello.
Ella! Hey guys! Okay, I might drop out. I'm just telling you right now. I'm at the park with my kids. I said, go ahead and rollerblade. And my house is across the street. And I'm like, oh,
There we
okay. Uh,
See, I think I learned from Tori not to bring them on the bigger screen. You know, when they're on their phone, because you never know which face they're gonna have when they freeze.
I know. Well, but look, that's the life of technology for sure. And I think Sue may have dropped the Wakelet. So there's a Wakelet that we can gather these resources.
Yeah.
Is that right, Sue?
I just put those into the private chat because I can't put it over in the comments for some reason. But so I just dropped that over there. And that second one is some of the collection of the information that Nairi gathered while those panelists are talking, because they were putting example after example of ways in which they put these principles into action. They were amazing, and they were so well prepared with concrete actions that people could take. And there were a couple of folks that were collecting these examples and dropping them into a Wakelet and pushing them out on Twitter. So I just went and tried to find those example Wakelets.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. And maybe we can probably get a shortened bit.ly of it, and then we can probably put it on screen.
Working on
Absolutely. So this name, Equitarium. Equitarium. Like when I first saw it, I was like, Equitarium, what is that? So I start thinking about like symposium. Tell me about just the play on this word and this name, because clearly y'all had to sit down and brainstorm this.
That comes from our friend Tori.
Yeah, we need Tori. We need Tori.
So in lieu of him, if he can't be here, I'll tell the arium comes from the Latin word a place to meet, right? A place to meet or gather and have a discussion. And so, of course, he put equity and arium together and made this equitarium. And I think part of what we liked about it was, I think in his brain, he was picturing a lounge, right? A physical space in which all of us are just there being ourselves. And this is not a conference where people are trying to be proper or formal or anything. Of course, we're sharing good information and it's great, theoretical, academic, great information, but it's filled with music and personality, and people are, they're bringing their full selves into this space. And so I think it's the way that it feels that we were really trying to go for, for this idea in what an equitarium is.
That is awesome. Yeah.
I think that's dope. Is that why he's the dope teacher?
Yeah.
But then also there was this this lounge feel to it, of course, but then we wanted to add music to it. Like how do we what will a real lounge look like? Well, we'll have music, but what kind of music are we going to have? Well, we need to have a specific type of music. So we have a playlist from our first Equitarium, and we wanted to make sure to kind of bring that vibe. And in the first Equitarium, we had a music aspect to it. We did a silent disco with this one as well. But we just wanted to infuse that music and that culture into what we were doing. So it was dope.
Explain the silent disco, because I'm all about silent disco, but y'all did this virtually, so I'm the geek, that. So tell me how did it flow?
Yeah, it was Ed Campos, he does his silent disco, and he wanted us to do something with him at one of the Q conferences. And we're like, hey, let's try the Equitarium. So he was gracious enough to come on and do it with us, and we just played music. We had different DJs, and Jason. Woo!
Smitty.
Yeah.
Jason, honey. How y'all say it down south? Jason, honey. Ooh, man. His red, because each DJ had a color, and Jason was red. So if you were listening to Jason's, yours was red. And like the majority of the time was on red. I don't want to shade anybody else, but Jason was banging out the hits, man. It was amazing. We were all just grooving.
Was he going old school hip hop or R&B? Okay.
Hip hop. It was just back to back. Yeah. I couldn't I would try to leave to go someone else's to see what they were vibing. Like every song was like a banger, and I couldn't leave. It was fantastic.
But there's something powerful about using music to bring people together. Especially when we're talking, conversations around equity, breaking bread with folks and listening to music are those elements that have a tendency to, one, make you feel a little bit safer and braver in particular spaces. Was that the vibe that you guys were going for? With adding that particular piece.
Yeah, and Tori, he's kind of the brains behind that, but like just to give it a specific vibe, right? And what does a vibe look like? And food and music, always brings people together. So we really wanted to bring that music piece into it to just, and it was on Friday, so we had the Grando's keynote. Then we followed up with the music just to kind of, set the stage for the next day when we're going to get to work. But we just wanted to be able to enjoy each other and be able to just vibe. It was great. And as Tori would say, my brother says this too. It was a vibe. It was dope.
That's awesome. And those things matter when you're talking about culture, knowing your audience, um, showing up, as Sue said, as your full and true self, authentic. And so we have to think about how we transfer those same type of spaces that we want for us as adults to students in classrooms. What do the classrooms feel like when we're dealing with a diverse or inclusive population of kids? We have to set the stage for them to be motivated. I know before the show started, off script, we were just talking about, dealing with our preteens and teenagers and what
Sorry.
motivates them, especially during this time of COVID and the pandemic. So we have to think about these spaces that we're setting up for them virtually so that we aren't just seeing all the monograms or initials on screen on Zoom, but are they wanting to come to class and being engaged? And so I think there's something to say about what you guys went for intentionally.
Look, if you threw a silent disco in class, folks gonna show up. I just
Are you
had to
kidding
pull
me?
it. I just had to pull it up.
Are you kidding me?
Thank
You
you,
do a
sir.
silent disco with the background. You talking about, folks complaining about, cameras being not showing. Luther, give that to me. Cameras
Yeah, you'll
not
have an
showing. What?
instant dance off. I'm talking about all movement, everything's happening. I mean, the teacher may
Man,
be viable to forget the lesson that they were teaching that day.
man, come on.
Yeah,
But
because
what if
we
you?
had there were some people who were actually like Cicely. Cicely was up grooving, like she was
I'm looking
standing
at her
up
right now.
and
I'm
getting
looking at
her
her
groove
right
on.
now.
Yes. Who else? Vanessa was up, just getting her.
Crystal,
Yes, man. They.
Crystal, yep.
It was crazy.
I
That
would
is
say,
awesome.
I would say I'm so upset that I missed it, but I was out celebrating my 20th anniversary, so I couldn't make it. So you know, I'm glad y'all
Priorities,
had fun
Ryan. You
for
need
me.
priorities, sir.
Yeah, you couldn't explain that to the wife that you were at the silent disco versus
But you know
celebrating the
what?
20-year anniversary.
My
You might have been in the outhouse.
actually, you know what? I should have did it because she likes to get her groove on. So we could have been partying together. Now, here's somebody that we need to talk about because he was your opening keynote. Is that right,
That is correct.
Rando?
Dr. Randall
What
Hansen.
what do you talk about? I just need to know.
Well, he started us off by asking folks to select what kind of coffee they drink. That was interesting. Because then Tatula and I, we made it known we are not coffee drinkers, man. We kind of felt left out a little bit, but that was the whole point, right? And then he moved into Deal No Deal. But he really he was transparent about some of his own biases that he has, and then he moved into how that does transfer over into how we are working with our students, how it's isolating them or leaving them out, right? And them not, this goes to Valerie, what you were talking about before we jumped on, right? About motivation for our students. And so he connected that aspect of it. And then, yes, and he was definitely engaging and interactive. Like he was getting people to, the chat again was just on fire. But then he led it into being a champion for our students. And again, tying that into making equity a verb. Sue, Tori, you're back now. You want to add some to Randall's amazing keynote?
Oh, he was great. I'm glad I can finally hear, and you guys can finally hear me. Sorry. But no, he was great. One thing that stood out to me that I spoke to my wife about. I said I really appreciated just how he delivered his keynote. Just he was standing, he was really engaged, and I was like, in this era of virtual conferences, you're so used to just seeing somebody sitting down and talking to you, and just to see him stand up and kind of bring that that energy still, even though it was virtual, I still felt very engaged and energized and happy to be there and excited. So I thought that was really, really cool. So yeah, he's great.
I just want to know if he brought the championship belt.
Oh, he did.
Always.
The
Listen.
fans is here, man.
I know
Come
he's
on.
watching. That's why I'm messing with.
Brian, listen, let me tell you, not only did he have that belt on his shoulder, you need to ask about what he had around his neck.
Oh yeah,
He
Randall?
wore the pearls.
The pearls.
had the pearls.
He wore the pearls.
He wore the
Is
pearls.
that right?
Yeah.
Is that
he wore the
right?
pearls.
Okay, I need pictures. Oh, actually, I can go back and actually look at the
Oh.
video, right?
Yeah, perfect tie-in. Yes, access that bit.ly and you can actually take a look at the recordings. The keynote is there, the 3 sessions, the panelist discussion, and then also some resources that are there. But yes, you can see Randall's, what was it, 5? Was it 4 or 5 costume changes leading into the belt and the pearls? Yes, that's
I thought
all
it was
there.
a gold chain. I'm like, yo, Randall's got some gold chain. And then he
Yeah, I
posted
thought
up
I
like
heard
the pearls. Okay.
So if people go to this bit.ly, they actually can get access to all
The
the recordings
recording.
for.
Yep. So the keynote, the panelist discussion, and the 3 workshops, and then below that, there's also the resources from each person's session that's there for them to access to.
So this will be the information that I actually see right here.
There you go.
You got it.
It's all there, the recordings, and then you scroll. You can also, we left up there, we left the flip grids, so that way if you want to take time to reflect, though that link is there. We also left some feedback that others have been giving us. But you can do reflections, you got resources, see what people are saying.
That's awesome. I mean, and look at how timely. I mean, you guys just ended the conference and already this stuff is available for folks to access. Sometimes you attend a conference and you have to wait like a month later before you could even see the videos or anything. And so why is it so important that you guys felt like this stuff is hot off the press? We needed to curate it and get it out there. Why is that such an important thing?
Yeah, like Sue said, that was 100% Leticia. She is the mad scientist behind all of this, and she'll just, I'm on it, I got this, I got that, boom, 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 and then it's done. She makes it seem so seamless, so effortless. But if any of us try to do it, I might throw out a back, try to figure out how it works. But it was really important that we curate some of the resources, and I think that's something that we've carried over from our first Equitarium, is that we were able to create these resources, and we wanted to make sure to do the same, and just be a place where folks can go to, and folks can just share and be able to access some of these very important information.
Definitely. If you guys missed this conference, you want to make sure that you click on that bit.ly, get the resources. Don't miss it anymore moving forward. And remember, so it's make equity a verb. And so because we're talking about action and actionable steps and being able to see that in real time, you can't wait till next year to get this done. There's time in between that you definitely need to make sure that you're collaborating, as you heard Sue and Leticia and Tatul and Nairi talk about. Find people that are on that same wavelength, come together, collaborate, ask a question. If you see something that needs to be done, you're not insignificant. You don't need to be these edgy rock stars or people that are getting cut big checks to speak all the time. Your voice matters. Your story matters. Get out there, get something going and make it happen. And thank you guys so much for this information. I think we lost Tori again. I wanted to see if some of what he brought to this group is transferred, or do we see this in his classroom too? I wanted to hear and get an insight on his classroom. Maybe you guys know that. I don't know.
Oh man, Tori is doing big things. Like oh my gosh, he's spoken for like common sense education, had a session not too long ago about
Black History Month.
right. And he shared what he's doing with his students. He also like spoke for IAQ. They are San Bernardino County. They have like their Wednesday webinars every other week or something. And he had his whole session again where he was saying like it was all about like making or creating relationships with your students and with your parents and then with other teachers. And he is giving practical, real life examples of what he's doing in his classroom. It is, I want to be in his class. That's how like amazing that he is. And he is real about it. Like and he's so young, and he will tell you, because we've heard his story several times, that like initially he was like, what can I bring to the table? I just started teaching. We were like, no, you go out here and share. You got a lot, and he hasn't stopped. Like he is sharing, he is doing it. So
That is awesome. And Sue, tell me the importance of that piece, especially that Leticia just mentioned, Tori being a young teacher. So we think about our teacher prep programs in colleges, and we have our pre-service teachers, and they're coming out into the field, and they almost feel like when they get hired and step into a building, they're the new kid on the block, and they feel like I shouldn't say anything because these people are more seasoned and their experience. Can you tell me, Sue, why this particular connection and you guys are amplifying Tori? Why is that important for new teachers to hear?
I got to tell you, I just put the link to the YouTube, to the distance learning chat that he did on Black History Month. And one of my colleagues said to me, you know what I loved most about that session is he didn't pretend to know everything. He didn't pretend to be, the king of all, information about Black History Month. What he did was he brought you in to make you feel like you are learning together, right? He acknowledges fully what it is that he knows, and he's confident about what he knows and about what he shares with his kids. And he's also confident in the fact that he is still a learner, and it makes you want to learn with him, and it makes him very humble. And, that's the kind of teacher that I want to learn from, is somebody who is not afraid to say, I don't know that. Let's learn that together, right? That's the kind of space that he creates. And that's the kind of teacher that I want for myself and for my students, right? Like that is exactly what he brings, but he is fired up, and he shows how hungry he is and how much he's ready to learn. And he's always willing to share everything that he's got, which is also a whole wealth of information. But, we just love having him in there and bringing all those great examples that he brings from his students and from his classroom.
That is awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And, I had a conversation today with a new para that we've hired, and she felt like she needed to mute her voice in the classroom because she felt like, I think I have some ideas, but I'm just going to take a step back. Her being humble and respectful. And one thing that I told her, I said, let me be transparent with you right now. Seasoned and tenured doesn't necessarily equate effective. Yeah. And I said, let me say that again in case you missed it, because I want to give you some processing time.
For the people in the back, Valerie.
For the people in the back of the stadium, take several seats and listen up clearly. Seasoned and tenured does not equate effective. So never dim your light because you feel like I'm new to the game and maybe someone else has been here before. Listen, that person being here before might be dead weight, and they might actually need to jump off the ship. There might be some things in place to make that happen. But definitely bring your voice, bring your ideas, because we need that freshness. We need, sometimes people get comfortable in the season and in the space that they're in. And sometimes that's just not meeting this new wave of students that we're seeing. So everybody, bring what you got to the table. Let's talk about it, collaborate. Let's weed it out. Let's come up with the logistics and the details and do some awesome and powerful things for students.
That's very powerful, Valerie, because people feel like they don't have a voice. People see things happening, have ideas. They're like, she's been teaching for 25 years, or he's been teaching for 25 years. They have all the answers, but you have the answers too. You have the opportunity to impact just as much as everyone else has, but we don't know it if you're not willing to step up. So it takes a little bit of, being courageous and, having that fortitude inside of you to say, you know what, I've got an idea. Here's what you're supposed to do. And it may not feel good at the time, but the end of it, you may suggest something that's going to be altering to the entire situation. So I think everyone has to be willing to kind of take a leap of faith, go out there, make the comment, the question. Sometimes that one question you raise may be the question that changes the entire situation. Very powerful, Valerie. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. Tatul, what you got going on in that background? These kids, are they watching Bob Marley? What's happening? We got
They
the
were
Jamaican.
asleep and it was peaceful. You heard that? It was asleep. It was quiet. My mute button wasn't active. And then all of a sudden they woke up and now you hear them.
I was like, bop, 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 bop. They got the whole soundtrack going.
Right.
Look,
I was like, are they at a concert? Like, what they watching? Video?
I know. And you see this one, she hear kids and she comes flying out of nowhere.
Hilarious.
Hey, that's life. That's life.
That's what's up. Well, I mean, I liked what you just said prior to that about amplifying Tori's voice. And then that ties into you wanting to bring in new voices as you did the second version this time. And we talked initially about the fact that we had to do this because there are very few and far between in so many spaces. Do you see what you're doing as a platform to allow folks to find their voice and a way for them to be able to tell their stories?
Oh, definitely. With that comes great responsibility. Like, it just does. I wish I could record. We meet weekly. We meet every Tuesday. I wish that I could record them. Like, we have it on paper because Sue is our note taker and she makes sure that we have that documentation. But I wish that I could record them because we don't take this, and I think I can speak on behalf of the entire group, we don't take this lightly. It is really, like, one of our missions is to create a space and create a group to of BIPOC voices to be able to share. And again, while we can keep trying to get other conferences to do it, why not do it ourselves? And we can do that in partnership with them. And so that's both times, both Equitariums. The first one was with QLA. They came to us. What we love is that they said, we're turning over the reins to you, whatever you want. Like, here's what we're thinking. We want equity. We're about that work. But, like, we don't know what to do. We're coming to you. That, we were like, what? Like, that took us a minute. That's a huge responsibility. That's that's a heavy weight to bear. But with the 6 of us, we were like, yo, like, once we like process it as a group, oh my God, like, we can't keep Tori and Tatul with coming up with like these crazy ideas that they have that we're like, can we like, that's what, okay, we can switch it up. It's just like, let's make sure that it has intention, like, we're all there to be like, remember this kind of thing. But we definitely don't take it lightly. Like, we go over and over and over again. There are some times where I'm like, didn't we talk about this already? But like, it really is about making sure that we are intentional, that it is purposeful. We are sticking to our mission. Sue's always like, let's go back to our mission. What did it say? Right? Like, are we stepping out whenever someone comes to us with a new partnership? Does this, this looks, she'll say it too. I'm wondering if this matches up to our mission. It does, that kind of thing, that we definitely do. We recognize that we can do this. We've talked about, like, making our own damn tables. right? And having that. But recently I sat in listening to Dr. Bettina Love, and she said it. She was like, in actuality, we made those tables. Let's go take them back. So we have that responsibility, and we know this, and we don't take it lightly, and we are very intentional. And we, you know, we're not saying that we have all the answers, and we're not saying that we're doing it completely right, but so far it seems like it's working for some of the things. And we're willing to take risk, but we don't take risk at the cost of someone else, if that, you know what I mean. Like, we're making sure that we are being inclusive as much as we can. We have those conversations. We talk about, if people can't come live, having those recordings, what does that look like? Like, everything that we do, there's long conversations about it, because we know how important it is, and it's very near and dear to all of our hearts. So I'm going to stop now because it's emotional, but yes.
That is awesome. I mean, shout out to the 6 of you for not just being dreamers, as Tatul said, but making those dreams happen, reclaiming those tables and those spaces, being inclusive. Shout out to all the individuals that are thinking first and foremost about making sure spaces are inclusive. One particular company I'd like to shout out, I think Shaquille O'Neal's a founder, a co-founder in it, and it's a new ad agency that specifically is created for BIPOC people. And guess what the name of it is? Majority. And that for me was so powerful, because, you know, I hear my husband he'll say this all the time. I hate that word minority. When we're in the news and we're referred to as a minority, he says it just has a negative connotation to in itself. And so when I saw that this company is launched, and it's for a diverse pool of talent that are Black, brown, women, LGBTQ community. And the name of this company is Majority. So shout out to all the change makers, the table snatchers, all of that good stuff. And may you continue to make equity a verb. Y'all are doing the doggone thing. I almost said a cuss word, but y'all are doing the doggone thing.
Well, we definitely appreciate you guys being here for sure, sharing that story. Make sure, ladies and gentlemen, you get to take the time to go and check out the bit.ly so you can actually get access to those videos. You definitely want to check everything out. Sue, Leticia, Tatul, Tori, we had Ellen in for a second. You know, we thank you guys for joining us here on Past the Scope EDU After the Bell edition. And we'll support you in whatever endeavor that you actually put forth from here on out. So just let us know, because we're here to ignite that passion for learning, one scope at a time. Is that right, Val? All right, you guys. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you guys next time.